Hey everyone, so this is going to be another fun and exciting session. Let me just quickly check if my voice is clear and all good. Cool. Okay, so by no means this is going to be the best design or this is not going to be the tutorial. We're just going to play around and see how you can tackle low level design, right? So low level design specifically when we talk about interviews, right, they could fall in two ways. Either we could be asked to design uh, the class diagram, right? Either we will be asked to design the class diagram or it could be the code part of it, right? So it could start with the class diagram, right? Or we could be asked to I'll quickly create a note section on the right side. Class diagram or a code part, right? Or it could be both. Generally, it is both. But it depends from company to company, but you should be prepared in both ways, right? So in this, we are going to tackle snake and ladder. So whenever there is a low level design, right, expectation is to think of classes and schemas. We are going to practice all of that, right? By no means this is just a live session to kind of play around. There are a lot of live streams. This is going to be focused on the design aspects. So, okay. Now coming to the design of any problem, right? The first thing that we want to let me put design, right? The first thing that we want to take a look at is the requirement, right? So let's create a section here, requirement, right? So this I think is this should be good enough. This is L as well, right? So that it's visible, right? Let check. Yeah. So now when we talk about requirements of this specific problem, right? Uh, so snake and ladder game, right? It's a game. So there so is going to be something called game, right? And the snake and ladder ad, we can imagine it is generally played on a game board, right? And board has cells. Generally, it has 100 cells, right? So first thing can be game will be played on a board with cells, right? Uh, Generally 100 cells, right? So that is the first aspect of it. And so we basically got two things, game and board, right? So here we'll just be thinking from a user perspective. So we are going to play the game. Game will have boards and on board what are things, right? And on board we could see snakes, right? And ladder, right? That's how. So board will have snakes and ladders, right? So that's the another thing. And generally, snake and ladder they have 2 points, right? It starts and its end, but that's okay. That's another thing. Now, uh, so in each game there could be multiple players, right? Game should have multiple players, right? So there will be list of players, and there should be a dice, right? Each player will roll a dice at its turn. So, for example, whenever there is a player's turn, it will roll a dice. Now, if it lands on a so, if the move lands on, so this I'll put it there, but I think it is explicit. If a player lands on a snake's head, it goes to its tail. If the player lands on a ladder start, it goes to its end. Right, so always head is greater than tail, and here uh, start is less than head. And right, so that's how the game is. Okay, cool. We have requirements. So this is how it should be any design, right? So I've given a lot of low level design interviews, and this is good thing to start with requirements, and it should take generally 2 to 3 minutes if you know the problem. Otherwise, you discuss and then put the problem out there, right? Now, the game will be played. So, uh, game ends if any of the player reaches the end of the board, right? So this is our requirement. So I think these are good enough requirements, and then we can extend these to have concurrency, right? But that's the later part of it, right? And generally, this is a kind of a easy problem, right? So easy. So notes. So easy problem, right? And it is expected to be completed with the code in 45 minutes because you can do it, right? It's a easy one. Eventually, we will be seeing, and also probably later I'll be putting up another video with the proper design. This is just a practice session to discuss all the different things. And so that's that, right? Now, once you have done the requirement, right, specifically if you are in a low level design, the next thing that will come into picture is your classes. Classes, so eventually when you will create instance, it will become into object. So your classes will come into picture and your interfaces, right? Could be classes, interfaces, enums, and maybe design patterns, right? Generally in this problem, you just have to get the code ready and demo it, right? There is design patterns a little bit not required, but it is always good to state those, right? And when we talk about classes, so it already gets its methods and attributes, right? So that's the thing. Now, once we have already put the requirements here, right? So based on this requirements, we'll be taking a look at what are our what is our what are going to be our classes, right? So first thing that we can see is the main thing is the board, this thing right here. So board is the important one, and everything happens in a board, right? So board kind of will have couple of things, right? So we'll first of all say board, right? And it will has a size. It will have a size, right? Because board has to have a size, right? So it will have a size. Let's write it this way. So it will have a size, right? And then also it will also contains the information about snakes and ladders, right? So it will contain information about snakes and ladders. These two things it will contain, and then there will be lot of functions also. So if we talk about, but you can't think of everything in the starting only. So we'll just say that okay, board has size, snake, and ladder, right? And yeah, that's the first part of it. And Now there will be in board, generally you will also be making moves, right? And there will be different get, move, and all these, right? So those will be methods. We can come to that later or when we are designing, right? Other than that, so there could be like entity, single entity. So this has some relations, but these are like plain simple entities, right? Player. So what player will have a name, right? Probably name, and then its position will also be there, right? So we can say position. These are two things, right? And ID and all will be there eventually, but for thinking, right, if you have to do it within a 45 minutes, you can clarify the expectations then to your end. If you have to do it within 45 minutes, then it becomes tricky, right? Now, once you have player, then you can think of simple things, right? You'll have a dice, right? Dice will have a range that it can give a number from, right? So range, generally it is 1 to 6, and then it will also have a function roll dice. This is easy, straightforward, right? Then some other singular entities like simple entities you can say, or you can, there is a uh, word for it, because basically they don't have any entities within entities, right? Let's search. What do we call class entities that don't have any other entity, that don't have sub entities within it? Okay, no, this is wrong. Yeah, maybe not base, struct within struct in Golang called nested struct, struct which are not nested are called. Okay. Yeah, standalone probably they are saying, but standalone is not the right word. Maybe is it a primary struct? Struct? No, not primary. Okay, so let's leave that. So other than that, there could be snake, right? Now snake, right? They will both have start and end point, but it is better to call it head and tail. And in ladder, you can start and end because that's the start of it and that is the end of it, right? So that is kind of more natural, but you can keep it same also. That also is fine. Like, and then in the end, it is always important to create demo classes, right? Now, demo class, which will basically do a demo, right? And also demo class and one more thing, game, right? And game demo. So, like I took more time, we are taking more time doing this thing, but we should be quick here, right? And this game should have play game. It should have players, right? It should have board, right? Now, generally, as this is a, and we can say that this game is going to follow a singleton pattern. That's easy sell because you can only create one instance out of that game. Now, the idea here is that either you could create a class diagram also, like you will put a board here, you'll put a player and then put a relationship. But generally, in this specific problem, it is not needed because this is a problem which can be coded within 45 minutes end to end, right? That is the aim of this. So, yeah, that would be the next part of this where will code this part. But generally, this is good enough. There could be relationship between these. You have a player, you have a game, and whatnot. But generally, we could directly go to the code part of it, right? Okay, so yeah, that's it for this one. We'll have another one for the actual coding part of it.